Hi guys, this is Maker of Beauty, and today I am working on my layered flowers. And this video that if you're seeing it through the YouTube, it is a partial video, and then I'm gonna do a bit more of a full video, but that's gonna be part of the package that I'm gonna be offering it through my Etsy shop. And in that package you're gonna have 5 different petals, different shapes, right, that you can use to create layered flowers. And like whenever whenever a petal is cut out as a one single piece, right, like you can see it right here right now, like this, I call that layered flower because you end up putting, like one layer over the other layer. And so to me it made sense to call it layered. I don't know if there is an official name for them, but that's how I know it. And yes, the package is going to offer 5 different petals, and I'm going to show you how I do my most simple one, and you can adapt this style and use it on many different petals actually. So without wasting any time, let's jump into making a petal. So with the layered flowers, right, you are, or at least I try to go for this very nice round full look. And one of the ways, really the only way to get it right, is to put as many petals as you can put it in. By petals I really mean the layers, right, because this is already like one petal. And what you don't want is, you do not want to have a drastic reduction between your layers. What I mean by that is that if you look at this flower, like you can see it, the reduction is huge, right? Here's the first 2 layers, and then like I jumped almost by half an inch, and it just does not have this nice round full look relative to this flower. So one of the ways to get that round look, right, is have as many layers as you can squeeze into your flower. I mean, obviously if your starting base is only 3 inches, you can't really have that many more layers relative that if you start off with your first layer being 5 inches. But whatever you start, right, if you needed to have like a smaller one versus larger one, reduce your subsequent layers by no more than 0.25 inch, right? And typically what I will do is that I'll have at least 6 layers, and I will have 2 layers of the same size. So for example, this is 4 inch and I have 2 4 inches. The next one I'll have, right, is 3.75, and I will have 2 of this, and then I'm gonna further go down more, and the next one I'm gonna set to 3.25. so this one is 3.25. And then if I want to make it even fuller, like I'll have the last one done at 2 inches. So just don't do anything as drastic as half an inch. Like that's a little bit too much, and you're going to have that sharp look that just not going to make it for the nice fluffy round flower. So one of the ways to layer this stacked petals is just roll your flower all in one direction. And for this one, right, my petal is pretty thin in here, and so the chopsticks quite working quite very well. And so I'm just going to roll each one of them upwards. You could also probably use the glue stick, but the thing with a glue stick, while it lifts the flower up, right, it's just not as tight of the curl as the one that I get with a chopstick. Now it does not have to be a chopstick, a thin pencil will do a job just as well. And so I'm just going one by one. And sometimes what I will do is with the smaller flowers, I will actually roll them, you know, on each, on both sides at the same time. Forgot this one, so let me get this one as well. And don't be afraid to give it a nice tight squeeze. Now I'm gonna find the next petal, and you know, you could even get away with having 3 layers of the same size. There is a way to force this petal to, you know, appear smaller, and I will show you what I mean in 1 minute. Let me just finish up curling all of them, and you guys can see that I'm just, you know, curling all of them, going upwards. Okay, so my hot glue gun is ready. Okay, so I'm gonna flip it. Now, this tool that I'm about to whip out is an absolute must when you work with layered flowers. I do not see how you could make them a certain way without having this tool. I mean, if there is a way, you know, I just don't know it. I've always used this tool and it works just great. Now this comes with its own set of pens with a rolling ball, but the rolling balls that I have are pretty small. So what I do is actually take my weeding tool, right, and then I have a large pearl, and I stick the weeding thing inside there, and that becomes my pen with a rolling ball, because it is a fairly large amount of a real estate space that I'm working with, and the ball that I have are too small. It will literally, like, you know, damage my paper, which I don't want to do that. And so what you're gonna do is you're gonna put the flower on this mat, and with your curly side, with your curl side down, right, and you're just gonna gently roll it in the center. And notice that as you roll it, right, the paper starts to lift up. Now with the very first layer, you don't want to roll it too much, because you don't want it, like, you know, high up. You just want it a little bit more. But on the subsequent one, you definitely want it a little bit more. Okay, and then on this one, because it's still the same size as my 2 previous layers, I'm actually going to lower it, roll it quite a bit, because I do want to raise quite high. And sometimes what I will do, like, I'll press it in gently in the middle and just go back and forth, and it's gonna, you know, make it raise even more. Just make sure that you don't over abuse it, because that does break the paper, and you don't want to press it so hard that it ends up, you know, like leaving the creases or tearing it apart. Okay, so now that I have this as my starting point, oh, and by the way, you know what, I'm gonna add a little bit more curls to this one to be consistent with the previous ones. Okay, here's my glue gun. Okay, so you just need a dot of a glue in the middle. You take the next layer and you put it over it. The key is you want to make sure that you're putting in your next layer in a center with the petals in between. Okay, and I find that using my fingers ends up shifting the flower too much, and using the chopstick to put it in and keep it in a place in the center works just wonderful. Okay, so the next layer is going in. I'm going to give it a dab of a glue, and again, this one is going to go in between of the previous flower. And so I'm just going to hold it in and try to position it in a center and press it down. Okay, I'm just going to hold it in a minute to make sure that the glue had a chance to adhere, and you can see, right, that it's starting to give that very nice round look. So now I'm going to move on to my next size up, and out of the fear that I might sound like a broken record, I'm still gonna say it, is that many times my layered flowers are product of all the extra real estate space that I have when I make my big flowers. So you know, it depends on some of the shapes and the petals. You just have like, you know, spots here and there, or like if I'm working with the 8 by 5, I mean 8 by 0.5 by 11 paper, and I'm making one flower, right? There is no way for me to, the easiest way to position everything to keep it an easy count is 3 petals on one piece of a page, right? And say I'm going for like a 12-inch, what is it? Right, 12-inch flower, right? Then like my largest petal like needs to be about 5 or maybe 6 inches. And then my second one is going to be, depends, you know, what I'm doing. It could still be, you know, 5 or 6 inches. And my last one will be, you know, 4 inches or maybe 4.5. So once you position all of those, all these 3 petals on 8 by 5, 8.5 by 11 paper, you are going to have quite a bit of a real estate space, right? And you will need to cut that project out 6 times. And the reason to that is, you know, it's a 3 layers, 6 petal each. So you're going to be running that project 6 times. And so if you squeeze in one large size layered petal, like say you put in 3 inches and the next one 2.25, you know, I mean, you can easily get one. Okay, so I have my next set of petals all curled up. So the same thing, you flip it so your curls go all the way on the bottom, right? So here's your curl is all of them in the same direction. Flip it out and roll it, roll it, roll it. Not too much because you don't want it to raise up so high that it's a huge reduction relative to the previous one. Now, if you guys wanted to make it, you know, like you see that if you're gonna start squeezing it, you know, like inside, right, it's looks a little bit flat at the center. So there are several things that you can do. If you want it to be raised, you can actually take a piece of a paper, right, and put it right in here, and that will raise it up. And then, you know, you just hide it. There are also these dots that you can buy. I think it's they sold in all craft stores, and you can use that to put it in. In my case, I'm actually going to be using like different centers to stick it inside, so I don't mind that it's going to have that flat inside. I have a whole bunch of glue in here. Anyways, so again, right, you want to make sure that you are positioning it right between the petals, and before the glue gets all glued in, you know, make sure you move it, that it goes in the right way. Okay, I'm gonna bring this tool back in here. Okay, this one I'm gonna raise a little bit more. And now I'm actually gonna take it in gently and just squeeze it in just a bit, but not too much. Okay, so the next one is going in, and again, it's still continuing it on between the petals of the layers that you are putting it on, right? So it's gonna go right in here. Sorry guys, seem to have a lot of glue today. Okay, next one. This one I want to be raised even more, so I'm going to give it quite a bit of the curl, and I'm going to press it down in the middle to squeeze it up, and then I'm going to pick it up and just very gently, right, hold the petals in a upright position and press it down on the bottom just a tad. A dab of a glue. Still trying to put it in between. And here's my, and just hold it on in one spot. Now what I've noticed about this one, right, is that I did miss one petal in between, and so like I feel that my reduction from this petal to this one is pretty, you know, like drastic. I mean, visually to me, I think it still looks very, very pretty, right? And you know, it doesn't bother me so much because oftentimes I use this flowers as my centerpieces in combination of other things, right? And so it will get hidden. But if I was doing this for putting it on like a canvas or something, then I would probably have an intermediary petal between the small and the largest one, because otherwise it's just like, you know, the contrast is a little bit too sharp. And what I'm gonna do is, like, I don't like how this one is sticking out, so I'm just gonna force it in like this. I'm just gonna break the the paper in like a little bit, and that's going to force the petal to lay a little bit differently. And then if you need to, you can just go back inside and curl it a little bit more. Now, here, there are several things that you can do. You can take another center, right? Curl it up so it lifts it up, and you want to curl, 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 curl. So it's lifting more and more and more. And then you can force that inside. I mean, it's not going to hold right now very well because it's glue. It doesn't have a glue, but that's what it would look like if you were to do it this way. So that's very pretty. You could put a large pearl in the middle. Like this one is a little bit too, a tad too small. That would look very pretty. Or you can actually take a smaller size petal, like I have right here, and you go back to curling it again. Curl, 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 curl. Now you will take it, and you really want to squeeze in now at the bottom of it. A dab of a glue, or you can put a dab of a glue right here, it doesn't matter. Then you put it right inside to finish it up. So that's one of the ways of how you can make a layered flower. I'm going to pause at this point, and if you want to learn other ways, then that knowledge comes with my package deal of the layered flower petals. In any case, thank you very much for watching it, and hopefully, you get to see the full of it.